Jake Paul going to the PFL. Now, this had been rumored for a while. Well, Jake was pretty good at rumoring this. And there was kind of a built-in belief if Jake comes over, Bellator would be the home for him. And when I tell you that was a built-in belief, where that had come from is when Jake was doing some boxing, he was doing it for Showtime. Showtime has the rights to Bellator. Everything's going to work itself out, and here you go. But then PFL strike. Guys, I'm going back a long time, too. I'm not going back a full year, but I'm going back to March. I'm going back to April of 2022, damn near a year. And all of a sudden, PFL started to look viable. Started to look like maybe somewhere that Jake would end up. Now, PFL, at the time, they made the announcement that they have business with Jake Paul. Also reminded us of the new pay-per-view business the PFL is going with. And part of that press release was to tell the world that it was a 50% split with the fighters. I don't know if you're going to get your bang for your buck for that. The PFL does seem like some very decent people. I don't know that I have ever heard somebody complaining. But if you're doing a pay-per-view business and you're going to split it 50-50, and you let the world know that, then that means that you at least believe that from a PR perspective, you've done something cool and you want some credit for it. Okay. What does it mean? What does it mean? We're going to do pay-per-view and we're going to keep 50 of the revenue and we're going to give it to you. Now, I assume that that is after expenses. And I don't know if we have to get lost in the minutia of that. But if 50% is going left and 50% is staying right where it's at, there's, traditionally speaking, 5 matches on a pay-per-view card. That would be 10 athletes. So do those 10 athletes evenly divide the 50%? Now, what we all know is on a pay-per-view of any industry, boxing and wrestling and mixed martial arts and the whole bit, you're main event heavy. And on a rare occasion, you'll get some meaningful support from your co-main event. So do we take all 10 that are going to be showed and do we treat them equally, or we do something a little bit more reasonable, which is that we're going to go main event heavy? Let's say we just go main event, as a matter of fact, just for the simple making this conversation a little bit easier to have. If we just go main event and it's 50%, is red corner and blue corner splitting that so they both get 25? I mean, do you see where this starts to be a problem? I mean, it starts to just create hard feelings. And people will generally go, yes, it's going to be the main event, Chael. This really isn't complicated. Well, then I'll have to step in and I'll remind you that when we do splits historically and we turn to boxing, Floyd Mayweather hadn't done a 50-50 split in his entire career. He refused to split it 50-50 with Manny Pacquiao. So, man, I don't need you. You're not going to get what I get. Just on principle, you're not going to get it. So I'm just sharing with you. I don't really know what it means. Sometimes it can create bigger problems. Is that a fair share to kick in 50%? Man, it seems heavy to me. Seems heavy to me. If I'm doing everything, I'm taking all the risk. It's my money. You're not even kicking in. But at the end of the day, you can get a windfall with zero risk. I can't give you 50%. And if I'm not good enough at explaining that to the media where I think I'm going to get hit, so I will just part with my bottom line to look like a nice guy, it's a respect issue, and it's tough for me. It's real tough for me. But they do now have Jake Paul, and what is he going to do? And I must tell you, I do think that he's a pay-per-view attraction. I do. There's not very many guys that can stand on their own. And I will watch Jake Paul's fight in the PFL. I don't know when it is. I don't know what it costs. I don't know if it's a Friday or a Saturday. I don't know what weight class, and I don't know who the opponent is. I don't know if there's anybody else I could tell you about that right now. Anybody in the sport, I don't think that I could tell you I'm watching without having any information. George St. Pierre came back. I don't know that I could commit to you now that I'm watching without knowing who the opponent or the weight class or the reason. Right? It's a really unique spot. I think when you have somebody like that, you have something very good. I think they can only go up from here. I know that Jake is going to try to do everything right. He's going to try to get He's going to try to get Nate Diaz in there with him. He's going to try to get a very meaningful opponent. And I don't think that he's got 2 and 3 bullets that he can fire in terms of drawing and having interest. And I'll just speak for myself, but for drawing and having my interest and a commitment that you will have me along the journey, I don't know that he's got 2 and 3 of those, absent information, including why and opponent. But for the first one, he will. He will. Him and MMA, that's interesting to me. There's generally a sucker's move done in MMA that when you get a star like him, you then protect him. You bring in a bum and you make sure that he gets a good result. It's never been, business speaking, a good idea. But it's a mistake that is made, and is made over and over and over again. But I don't know that Jake wants that. I don't know that Jake's asking anybody, do me a favor. Deal me from the bottom of the deck. I don't know that he's asking for that. And I don't know that it's a bad idea to stick to a similar model that he did in boxing, which is to take on a very meaningful, very successful MMA fighter who's maybe not in the perfect time of their success. Like here, I'll just give you an example. This is off the top of my head. You guys know I'm not very good at matchmaking, but to prove the point, I'll give an attempt here, which is if I find out that Jake Paul is going to be fighting Tyron Woodley, that works for me. And moreover, if I found out that Jake Paul is going to be fighting Anderson Silva in MMA, that works for me. I think that Jake is going to try to turn and run and straight arm that as much as possible. But I think that's because there's a lot of haters that take to the internet, right? The real people, the normal people, don't do that. We don't give you praise. We don't give you flack. We don't do that. But a lot of times the weirdos run the shop. Just read a very interesting article on this, that Hollywood does not understand the internet, but the internet does understand Hollywood. And the basic premise, if you got through it, is that Hollywood will pander to those with a voice. Those trolls that go out on social media, they will pander to them. But the mistake that they're making is those trolls don't support the movies anyway. Those people that really understand the internet, they go and steal the content anyway. So Hollywood continues to make them happy because they come out and have a voice, and Hollywood just can't seem to stand up to that. And then when it's time to actually watch the streaming service, they go steal their content and bury it anyway. It's an interesting piece, and it's not totally wrong. And I would just encourage that Jake doesn't need to go for that. I think he's got a winning model there. And I don't see a massive advantage to taking on somebody young and youthful and blah, blah, blah that could draw on a pay-per-view when it's your first time out. It's very above board. It's very above board to be straightforward and say you're either going to give me some size or you're going to give me some youth because you've got the experience. So let's see where it goes. But I thought that overall, as far as announcements goes, they were able to keep this a secret. I mean, this broke this morning. I didn't find out about it until last night. And you could telephone, telegraph, or tell a fighter. They were able to keep this one a secret. And the only person I told is Helwani. And Helwani did not put it out or even respond to me that he had it. Overall, man, they did an awesome job. And I think it's a very interesting announcement.